What is up? Welcome in. It is the second post Loons in a row coming at you after a Minnesota United victory. 1-0 over FC Dallas at Allianz Field. Late goal coming from the foot of Robin Lode. And joining me tonight to break it all down is Sam from Pod on You Loons. Sam, we got a lot to talk about and again, some exciting stuff to talk about on the post-game show tonight.
Yeah, Jeremy, super psyched to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Of course.
Prior to this, I was honestly, so you texted me, I think, a couple of days ago, but I was trying to think of a witty tweet to make the tweets of the night to get onto the show, just because I've been a fan of watching it, and then got the invite to join you. So psyched to be here, man.
I appreciate you joining me. And like I said, we have a lot to talk about. The 1-0 Minnesota United win. And just it's what this team needed. Going all match long, you just felt like they were knocking on the door, and they finally get that goal. We're going to start things off a little bit differently. Normally we go in the game notes, kind of go moment by moment. We're going to start off with three things, is what we're calling it. Three things, three just kind of high-level observations, takes, things like that. But before we do that, we want to know what you thought of the match. So if you're watching here on the stream, leave your comments, leave your questions, leave your overall takes. If you just want to leave a ton of exclamation points, a ton of W's, you could do that too. If you want to comment the lyrics to Wonderwall, by all means, go for it. We'll put it up on the post-game stream here. And actually, since we are presented by our good friends at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee there in Minneapolis, we're actually going to do a little bit of a giveaway tonight. So if you leave a comment, a question, something for us to answer or respond to here on the stream, we're going to be giving away a 1-hour field rental at their facility at 801 9th Street Southeast in Minneapolis. They have a beautiful indoor soccer field there. So if you want to rent that out for yourself and your friends for a full hour, that's a $50 value. Just go, just leave us a comment, leave us a question, and just include a coffee cup emoji in that comment or question so we know that you want to be entered in the giveaway. It can't just be the coffee cup, though. You have to give us something to answer, something to respond to. So definitely leave those comments, whether you're watching on Twitter or on YouTube. Leave those comments and just include a coffee cup emoji at the end, wherever you want to throw it, and you'll be entered to win that 1-hour field rental from our good friends over at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. Big thanks to them again for sponsoring Post Loons. Derek and the guys over there are awesome. And if you haven't been out to 9th Street Soccer and Coffee, I would highly recommend it. It's such a cool place. I'm such a big fan of theirs. And they're going to have, Minnesota United watch parties for away matches, a few away matches as we enter the season too. So definitely go follow them on Twitter at 9th Street MPLS and check out their website, 9th Street MPLS.com. That's NINTHSTREET MPLS.com to learn about everything 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. So while people are leaving their comments and leaving their questions, Sam, let's go ahead and get into our three things. And since you are the esteemed guest here, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. So since I am the first one, I actually think you're passing the buck because that means I get to address the elephant in the room of Brent Kallman.
Yes.
Brent Kallman being on the starting lineup ahead of Juka Retalia as Baki Dabasi continues to recover from injury. And so my first takeaway from the game is to tell you all that Brent Kallman is still in his plans.
Yep.
Not going to lie, I kind of wish Ethan was here from your 10K Pitches podcast because I got a rom-com analogy.
Okay, love it. Hit me with it.
So Adrian Heath is the Ted Mosby type, and he's moving in with his girlfriend for the first time. And the vocal portion of the Loons fan base that's done with Brent Kallman is the girlfriend.
And
I like that. So the Ted Mosby type has his piece of decor from Bachelorhood that he really likes, maybe like a neon beer sign or something. And the girlfriend is like, I thought we decided your beer sign should stay in storage. And the Ted Mosby type is like, did we? The real big difference here, though, is that it's 2021 and people tend to choose who they enter a romantic relationship with. And in the case of Loon supporters, some of you will not feel that your relationship with Heath is by your choice. It's more of an arranged marriage. But Coleman is in Heath's plans, and going forward, you should not be surprised to see him in the lineup. Especially given that Raytalia did not perform poorly leading up to this game. I don't know about you, Jeremy. I have my only guess as why Coleman was selected was maybe it had something to do with Ozzy not being in the lineup and Ozzy not being able to assist with that back line from the 6. And for that reason, maybe Coleman is rated higher by Heath and the coaching staff from a pure defensive standpoint than Raytalia. And possibly for that reason, he was given the start.
Yeah, it could be one of the few rotation moves that Heath made too, considering how many games in a row they've played. But also, speaking of rotations, you don't have another game for 2 weeks at this point too. So, there are both, I guess, advantages and things going against that particular aspect of it. But it just all depends. Obviously, Brett Coleman did not have a great match, did not have a great performance against Seattle in his first showing. Didn't get a lot of time in the match against Colorado. Obviously, a lot of Loons fans were not happy that he was entered into the game against Colorado, considering what was happening. But overall, the full sample size on Brett Coleman is he's a solid defensive player. He's a very solid center back, right? So if we go by the larger body of work, Brent Coleman obviously has more of a sample size and more of a body of work for Minnesota United than Jukka Raitala. Raitala has been amazing. Raitala has been fantastic for Minnesota United. He has done everything they have asked him to do, but I'm kind of with you, Sam, maybe on that hierarchy of pure defensive consistency and kind of who he trusts there on the back line. Maybe Coleman does kind of supersede Raitala in that particular aspect. But personally, if it wasn't a rotation move and both guys are 100%, I would have gone Raitala because, again, I think he's been fine. But again, we're not there at training every day. We're not there kind of in those meetings, in those discussions. So kind of hard for me to say either way.
Yeah, I agree too. It's when we host these podcasts or we come on these shows, I think sometimes we pretend we have the answers, but the truth is that Adrian Heath knows more about his squad than we do. We watch the games, we read the articles, we get all the information that we can. But at the end of the day, he knows why he made his choice. We have to guess. So it's fortunately tonight it worked out for him.
Yes, it did. Sam, go ahead and give us number 2.
Point number 2, this game just felt different. So I don't have a rom-com analogy for this. It just felt like it was a big game. I know it's only the 6th game of the season. It did not feel like the typical 6th game of the season. It felt big. It felt like it mattered to the players. You had players just throwing their bodies at the ball, not in crucial moments. Like you saw, right, Hassani dives for the ball as he's going towards the goalkeeper, knowing he's going to collide with the goalkeeper. That was a crucial moment, right? Hassani could have possibly scored a goal there. But you saw players just diving for the ball just to maintain possession or try to gain possession. And, right, like that's just not what we have been seeing the previous 5 games. So players really threw everything out there, and even the body language was different, right?
It was. Agreed.
I remember seeing Reynoso smiling after that 30th minute shot. Mm-hmm. He looks at the camera and he smiles. Like they looked like they were having fun.
It was interesting. It was like a relaxed intensity. Yeah. Like they were intense. They had the pedal to the floor, but they also weren't like too worked up. Like you could tell by the body language, like you said, that they were relaxed, but they were going full bore, which was excellent to see. I think that's like the perfect mix of what you want to see from this particular Minnesota United team.
I would agree. Maybe it wasn't, especially the first half, maybe it wasn't the beautiful game that a lot of people would enjoy.
Agreed.
But it was fun to watch. You think about the neutrals watching, and even some of the American sports fans that aren't as accustomed to soccer. Despite it being 0-0 until way late in the game, this felt like the kind of game that people would find entertaining. And
yep, agreed. All right, and then let's go with number 3.
We'll make this real short. 2 clean sheets in a row.
Love it. Beautiful. Yeah, that's great to see. And again, that when you look at Minnesota United in seasons past, clean sheets usually. I mean, if you look at any team, I guess clean sheets lead to 3 points usually. But Minnesota United's been a team that really not necessarily relies on it, but they've been able to put out clean sheets consistently, whether it's Tyler Miller or Dane St. Clair, or, whoever. In the Vito Minone, whoever is there between the posts, it's always been Minnesota United has been so blessed with quality goalkeeper play from 2019 on, right? From Vito to Tyler, now to Dane St. Clair, back to Tyler. It's been so solid for Minnesota United over these last 3 seasons. And that's really kind of been one of the main focal points as to why they've been so successful. But I agree with you, Sam. 2 clean sheets in a row is huge. Before I get into my 3 things, if you're watching on the stream, remember, leave us a comment, a question. If you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. That would be great. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. Whether you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, though, if you leave a comment or a question for us, you're going to have a chance to win a 1-hour field rental from our friends over at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. So be sure to do that. Just include a coffee cup emoji in that question or comment, and you'll be entered to win that 1-hour field rental. But it's got to be a question or comment about the match for us to answer. So please go ahead and do that. My 3 things. My first thing tonight is that this team early on was much tighter defensively than they have been in the previous matches this season. We have seen uncharacteristically, I would say poor defense, but very poor defensive mistakes that have led to quality chances for the opposition. Tonight, I thought things were much tighter on the defense. Yeah, there were a couple of moments where you kind of, but for the most part, this team was very solid defensively, kind of reminded me of the Minnesota United of the last 2 seasons. It's really been able to trust that back line to be that brick wall, to keep those clean sheets that we just talked about. So that was excellent. Number 2 kind of goes to what you said. Oh, sorry, Sam, go ahead. I'll let you respond to that.
Well, and I was just going to say, yeah, Dallas did have a couple of opportunities, and they even, I believe at the end of the day, they led in possession, but they did not have a lot of shots, especially shots on goal.
At some point, it was like 16-4 Minnesota. I don't know how it ended up, but that was the difference in shots at one point in the second half.
Very lopsided, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, and again, testament to the defense and a testament to how they played tonight. Number 2 kind of reverts back to what you're talking about, the 2 clean sheets in a row. Also another quality performance from Tyler Miller. Even though the defense was stout, like I just said, Miller was also excellent. Made a few big saves when they needed him. You can just tell, and this has been said, on many podcasts, including yours probably, Sam, over the last week or so, but Miller's just so vocal. Like, he is such a facilitator in that goalkeeper role, which is one kind of low-key big portion of being a goalkeeper, is being that facilitator of the rest of the squad. So he was excellent in that tonight. He made a few big saves. So excellent work from Tyler Miller. My question, though, speaking on that, is where does this leave Dane St. Clair? Because we've had now 2 starts in a row from Tyler Miller. Are you really going to sit him back down in favor of DSC after these last 2 performances? I mean, it's one of those good problems, right? You have 2 great goalkeepers, but now what do you do with the one that's sitting on the bench?
I've thought a lot about this, and I don't know. Part of me wants to think about American football. I know on soccer programming, we don't like to reference American football, but there's that old cliche that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. And I think we want to apply that to goalkeeping. But then on the other hand, you look at how things are done in so many leagues around the world, and they tend to have a couple of quality goalkeepers on hand, right? Like you saw Manchester City starting Zach Steffen in all of their cup games this year, or at least in the more recent cup games. I don't follow Man City, but you have the cup goalkeeper. Well, here in the United States, our cup, I don't know if it's going to happen or not. We thought we were going to have a Leagues Cup that's up in the air. We thought, or was that full out canceled? I think the Leagues Cup has been canceled. I know the US Open Cup has been canceled. Yeah. Leagues Cup, US Open Cup. we don't have these competitions. So we have two quality goalkeepers. You have to have some sort of a rotation. I think both goalkeepers have established themselves enough within the team where the defenders have chemistry with them and the defenders are able to know how to play with those goalkeepers and know how to position themselves around those goalkeepers, that I think right now we're just looking at, it's a good problem to have. I don't think 5 years from now we're going to have both of them on our roster. I would honestly be surprised if next year we have both of these goalkeepers on our roster. I think at least one of them is good enough to move. But right now it's just a good problem to have. I'm not really interested in overthinking this right now.
No. Yeah. And it's not one of those things where like you can plug either of them in and this team's going to be fine. It's not going to ruin any cohesion or any momentum either way for this team, plugging in either Dane St. Clair or Tyler Miller. And I think it is important to get them both on the field to make sure neither of them get too cold, right? You can't just sit them on the bench for a handful of games in a row because they need to get out and they need to get that field time. They need to get that game time in order to stay at their full potential, right? So, and I also think it's great from a training perspective too. Like you have two goalies who are pushing the crap out of each other probably in training. I mean, each one of them knows that if they just have one misstep, I mean, look what happened with Dane. One misstep, and here comes Tyler Miller. I don't know if that's related at all, but it was the game after Dane St. Clair made the one mistake that he has made in a Minnesota United uniform that Tyler Miller comes in and gets the start. So, I mean, it really is that cutthroat right now at the goalkeeper position for Minnesota. And I think that competition really does bring the best out of both guys.
I would agree.
All right. And my third thing, very, very simple. Such a deserved goal from Robin Lod. I mean, he has been, anytime he gets the ball, you almost want to like stand up in your seat a little bit because like, what's Robin going to do now? Because he has been just absolutely crossing defenders up. Sorry to use a basketball term, but he has been crossing defenders up all season long, just putting himself in great goal scoring positions, I should say. I almost like goalkeeping positions, goal scoring positions. And he deserved that goal. He has been so good for Minnesota United, so consistent in this season in all the different positions that he is expected to play, right? He's played the 9, he's played on the left, he's played on the right. I mean, it's so great to see him. I know he got a goal earlier on this season, but to get the game winner. Now, granted, it wasn't the prettiest goal in the world, but at the end of the day, you put it in the back of the net, you win the match. It doesn't really matter. And I was just so happy that he was the one to actually give Minnesota United the win tonight.
Yeah, psyched for him. Shout out to the Lud Bros, the term I have for our mutual friend Grant from the Dummy Run and my co-host on Pod on You Loons, James. They believed in him all along. They bought his jersey, even when the goals weren't coming, and you see it paying off for Robin Lod and everyone that believed in him. So, yeah, Robin Lod always. Tonight's goal, it seemed like he was in the right place at the right time, but that's oversimplifying it because it takes a lot of intelligence to always be in the right place at the right time. So,
yeah, and that's a great point you made, Sam, considering how maligned he kind of was after his first season or so in a Minnesota United uniform, and to come back and just have the performances, the consistent performances that he's put on, kind of really solidifies himself as, one of the top quality guys that this team has. So that is great. Again, if you have a question, comment, feel free to drop it in the chat. Give us a thumbs up if you are watching us on YouTube, and then also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet as well. We got a lot of great stuff coming up. My co-host on 10K, Ethan Brandt, is doing a weekly college conversation, well, bi-weekly, I guess, where he's talking to different college coaches and players from around the area or around the areas in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So that is really cool. That's coming up on our YouTube channel. And then as the season moves on, we'll have more content on YouTube aside from just I almost said Pod on You Loons. Post Loons. You're not going to find Pod on You Loons on the 10K YouTube channel. Shout out to our.
You can put it there if you want.
Hey, give me the content and I'll throw it up there. 9th Street. Really thankful for your guys' support. Thank you so much. Dave Stevens said Gasper going forward actually looked good for a change. His late effort and shots led to the goal. That is one, actually, Dave says for a change here, but honestly, that is one of the positives that I've actually seen from Gasper Now, is it a positive that he's getting that far up the field so consistently? Maybe not. But the work he has done in the attacking third in terms of sending crosses in and putting Minnesota United in goal scoring chances and his distribution in that portion of the pitch has been pretty consistently great. But yeah, I think tonight he more like picked and chose his spots a little bit better. And you saw it that pay dividends on the defensive end as well. He was much better defensively too. So yeah, I agree with Dave. And all around, just much better performance from Chase Gasper tonight. Thoughts?
Oh, for me, yeah,
yeah.
Chase Gasper's one of our guys, and
yeah.
I know he's been struggling. He knows he's been struggling, and it was good to see him have a good game. I don't know. There's not much more to say. It's almost like he had, not to use another How I Met Your Mother reference, but it's almost like he had the yips, where he was in his own head, and it was good to see just shake that out a little bit. Maybe last game, there were still a couple of Chase Gasper mistakes that just didn't lead to any goals for the opposition, for Vancouver. And maybe that was all he needed to shake things off. And just today, things looked much more solid all around. So
yes, they did. Also, before I forget, want to give a shout out to the Mingo, or the Loon cousins, the Mingos over there in Madison. Late winner for them too. Derek Gebhardt in stoppage time for the first match back at Breeze Stevens Field, giving the Mingos a 1-0 win at home. So it was interesting. It was like 3-minute difference. Mingos get their game winner, and then 3 minutes later, Robin Lode puts in the game winner for Minnesota United. So if you're a fan of both squads, great night for you and a great sort of 3-minute span for sure.
Yeah, shout out to my hometown Mingos. I can't wait to be there. I'm going on June 12th. I have tickets. So
nice. That'll be fun.
I am jacked.
Yeah, I have to get out there to a game. Obviously, hosting the Talking Flock podcast every Monday with Rob Chappell from Madison 365, talking all things Forward Madison. We'll have a fun episode on Monday to talk about. But I got to get out to Madison for a match because Breeze Stevens is one of the more unique places in the best way possible to take in some soccer. So definitely got to get out there. Definitely got to see the Mingos in person for the first time. Have you ever been out to a match, Sam, or is that going to be your first one?
I went to the match where Minnesota United played a friendly against Forward Madison.
Okay.
So that so far was the only one I went to. And I have the split scarf. I know people have feelings about split scarves, but I was like, it's my hometown Mingos against my current city, Minnesota United. I was like, I got to do it.
Yep. I wish I would have gone to that because that is like the perfect mix. And then at that point, you had guys from Minnesota United playing for Forward Madison as well, kind of when they had that little unofficial partnership there, where, Dane St. Clair has played for Forward Madison, Hassani Dotson. I think Chase Gasper suited up a couple times.
I don't think Dotson ever did.
Oh, he did not. I thought for sure he did. Maybe you're right, though. You would probably, being from Madison, you would know better than me.
Well, and remember, Dotson started in like the first several games of that 2019 season for Minnesota, or not started, but he made appearances in those games for Minnesota United. So
yeah, true.
I do not think he was down there. I do remember at that game, Mason Toye had been spending time in Madison, and Mason Toye suited up for Minnesota United in that game, and I think he scored the winner for Minnesota United. It's pretty cool.
Okay, that's awesome. That is awesome. So moving on here, I want to get into a little bit of these game notes here and just kind of overall, how this match went down. Speaking of Robin Lode deserving that late goal in the 18th minute, the little dummy that he did, the pass from Dotson where he dummied it for Finley and then he got it back but sent the shot wide. That is just, his instincts and his work on the ball, just anytime he's around the ball, he seems to make that exact right decision or kind of like that next level right decision where it's not just, okay, I'm going to receive this and put a shot on goal. It's like, oh, I'm going to dummy it because I know the guy's behind me and then he's going to get it right back to me and I'm going to get a much better shot. Like that is the type of quality, like just kind of that just little bit extra that Robin Lode has provided that we really haven't seen from Minnesota United in years past in terms of just one guy who's just that influential and that just locked on or around the ball. like Robin Lod has been that this season.
I would agree. I would agree. I loved what Robin Lod was doing with the ball. I couldn't believe how many times I just saw Emmanuel Reynoso, though, just outright sprinting down the field with the ball.
Yeah,
it was almost as if we were playing FIFA and just holding. I'm not a gamer, but I know enough to know that you hold down that side button and it makes your player go fast.
Yeah, the right trigger. Yep.
And you just assume that eventually they're going to like just collapse, pull a hamstring, die. I don't know. Yeah. But between the two of them and really all of our guys just playing so hard all night, Kendra almost seemed to jinx it towards the end. She made it was before our goal by Robin Lod. And she made a comment about like, I just don't know how much more these guys can take before they're going to start getting tired. And that was one of, after Dallas not having many chances all game long, Dallas finally was on the counterattack, and our guys were rushing to get back. And fortunately that worked out for us. But the energy level from our guys and the play from our guys tonight, it just, I don't know. I know I'm just repeating what my second point was earlier in the show, but it was fun to watch.
It's such a big point, though, especially considering how many matches this team has played. I mean, this was their third match in a week. At that point, you would expect guys to be completely gassed in the second half, which, I mean, a few of the guys did. I mean, Kendra was right. I mean, she was making an astute observation. Like, some of those guys look gassed, but just the effort to kind of try to overcome that. And just, I mean, I saw after she said that, you see Hassani Dotson sprinting back on, to try to get back on a counterattack. And it's like, he's played all match. And like you said, Reynoso and just all these guys just, I mean, it was 100% effort the entire match, in spite of how winded they must have been, especially late in the second half. And that, to me, kind of back to your second point earlier in our three things, that was huge. And if they didn't put out that effort and they didn't dig that deep and provide that little bit extra, I mean, I don't know if we're talking about a win or maybe even a draw tonight, because that was they needed every bit of it to get that win. Moving on here, though, scary moment in, I believe, the 20th minute. Hassani Dotson attempts to get to a through ball and slides right into Dallas goalkeeper Felipe. Luckily, both end up back on their feet and looked okay, but that was a very scary moment. I mean, Dotson was down for longer than the goalkeeper even was. And I mean, obviously, that's not a guy that Minnesota United can afford to lose.
Yeah, when that happened and I saw they were both down, because when you're watching it and the camera is zoomed out and you're watching at full speed, it almost looked as if Hassani Dotson would have kicked Felipe in the head. And so that was what I was most worried about seeing was, oh my gosh, like, is there a head injury? We don't want that. It looked, and I haven't gone back and really checked, but it looked like Hassani maybe more just got the wind knocked out of him. It looked like Felipe's, maybe it was his knees just kind of slid right into Hassani's torso.
Yeah.
Glad to see, obviously that was the 20th minute and we saw both of them playing hard for the rest of the game. So I'm assuming they're both okay. I hope they're both okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a scary moment.
NWB says, we need the bye week. What is the lineup for RSL? Dabasi in, Unu in, Fragapane in. Well, Fragapane isn't even signed at this point, so we'll see about that. I mean, it is a long time, but there are quarantine protocols. So I would say he is the least likely to be in. Dabasi, all depends on his health, where he's at. I know last week in the media availability, he kind of hinted that he was close, and obviously a bye week kind of gives him that. But we've seen great stuff from Raitala. We saw some good stuff from Coleman tonight. So we'll see. I mean, but I think Unu, he has been confirmed from, or I guess not confirmed, but Cal Williams has said, based on the quarantine protocol, that Unu would be available for that May 29th match against RSL. So I would expect that he would probably start. But I mean, Fragapane, you got to get him signed first, and then Dabasi, all depends on the health.
Yeah, just judging by the articles, I think you're right. The language from Heath, who I always tell people on my podcast, I think Heath typically says things how they are. He doesn't really send us in wrong directions ever. I can't think of a moment where he said something and it didn't turn out to be true.
Yeah.
So that would lead me,
right?
Yeah, that would lead me to believe that Baki is playing against RSL. It's 2 weeks from now. Heath is talking as if Baki's almost 100% now. So that would lead me to believe that we're going to see Dibassy against RSL. Probably going to see him start. Just with Hunu, we have a history of when we get a shiny new toy, not necessarily starting them, but we tend to give them their appearance. The game has, right, like when we threw in Reynoso shortly after his arrival last year, I believe we were losing quite a bit, and I believe that the game was already out of hand when we threw him in. But we do have a history of putting these players in later in the game, and I would assume, based on what we've done with Reynoso, Abila, I would assume that we're going to see Hunu. I think you're right with Fragapane. We forget that he's not signed yet.
We talk about him so much, like he's already a part of the squad, but he's still starting at Talaris. I have the notifications on my Thought Mob app. Like I have the Franco Fragapane notifications up, and every 3 days, it's Franco Fragapane in the starting 11 for Talaris. So it's like, well, he's not coming to Minnesota right at this point, So it's just a wait and see game on Fragapane. I mean, I think there's enough talk and there's enough kind of hinting that he's going to be signed at some point that I wouldn't call it inevitable, but there's a strong chance it happens. It just all depends on when, right? So he's not signed now with quarantine protocols. Even if he's signed tomorrow, I'm not 100% sure he would be starting or even make an appearance against RSL. So we'll have to see. The only thing with Hunu is Abila is also kind of coming off of an injury. He's still working his way into fitness. So maybe that does impact the decision, and maybe that does make Heath a little more willing to put Hunu in the starting 11 when we get to that right off the bat, considering maybe he doesn't want to run Abila ragged. It just all depends, and it all depends on what formation they go. A lot of it does depend on Dibassy, because Dibassy being in the starting 11 or not in the starting 11, I think is the biggest factor in terms of what formation Minnesota United goes with. I think if you have a healthy Bakaye Dibassy, you are very able to go with the traditional 4-2-3-1. If you don't, that makes you more likely to start Ozzy Alonso, and we have seen Ozzy Alonso work more in the 4-3-3. So it just, I guess, it all kind of depends, which is a terrible answer to that question because we're supposed to be offering our takes and our kind of predictions here. Yeah, I would think Hunu, I would put probably 60-40 that he would start against RSL. Dibassy depends on the health, and Fragapane, I don't see it especially even if he gets signed tomorrow, I don't think he would be able to suit up against RSL.
Yeah, and if I was to summarize my answer, I think based on what Heath is saying, I think we're going to see Baki Dibassy starting against RSL. I would flip it. You said 60-40 in favor of Hunu starting. I would say I'm 40-60.
Okay.
I think we're going to see Lud start up front, and we're going to see Hunu come in later. Okay. Again, that is just based on Heath's word on when his arrival is supposed to be, and just our precedent for how we tend to handle these situations.
Yeah,
could be wrong. I don't really care if I'm wrong. In terms of Fragapane, I just want him in before we lose Lud and Gregush to the Euros. As long as we get him in before that, and he can be in our mix as we try to figure out what to do when they're gone, I'm happy.
Yes, I think that is crucial too, to have that left wing position solidified for when we lose guys like Lud, because you need a quality person in there to sort of fill that role, right? We haven't seen Nico Hansen. He's been hurt, and I think he would have been the guy to start at left wing if he was healthy against Seattle. So it all depends, but I think that's a very good point, Sam, that if Fragapane can be in by the time international duty hits, that will make up for a lot of what Minnesota United will lose with Robin Lod. Now, again, we just talked about how crucial Lod has been, but having Fragapane in there will at least pick up some of the slack that you lose with Robin Lod. Before we move any further on Post Loons, I also want to let you know that we are proudly presented by our good friends at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. Again, if you want a free 1-hour field rental at their facility at 801 9th Street Southeast in Minneapolis, just leave us a comment or question to be read on the air. It does have to be about the match, but if you include a coffee cup emoji in that comment or question, we will know that you want in on that 1-hour field rental at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. Beautiful indoor field there in Minneapolis. Such a great facility. Go check it out. And again, comment or question on the match, leave a coffee cup emoji somewhere in that comment or question, and you'll win that one, or you'll be entered to win that 1-hour field rental at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. Now, you can rent the entire field or half the field all to yourself if you do want to book a field rental, or you can complete in weekly pickup. Just $5 to complete in weekly pickup at 9th Street. And they have 2-hour Thursday pickup. I don't know. I actually don't know if that's still going, so I shouldn't say that. But at one point, they did have 2-hour Thursday pickup. That was $10, which is cool. And they have summer pricing right now. So it's even more affordable now than it was before. And it was very affordable before. So it's even more affordable now to book a field rental or compete in weekly pickup at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. If you're interested or just want to learn more, go to 9thstreetmpls.com. That is 9thstreetmpls.com if you want to check out our good friends over at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. And again, I would highly recommend it. 801 9th Street Southeast in Minneapolis there. Good friends of the pod and of the Post Loons. Very, very happy. Speaking of comments and questions, Dave Stevens says, was the offside trap part of Minnesota's game plan tonight, or were the 10-plus FC Dallas offsides on them? I think the final tally was 11 offsides for FC Dallas. I don't know. I don't know if necessarily an offside trap is something that I think almost every soccer team tries to implement in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if that's really ever been a focal point of Adrian Heath's defensive system. I think a lot of it, if I'm just looking at this and trying to come up with an answer, I would say that FC Dallas being the more rested squad and Minnesota United theoretically being, their third game or third match in a week being, a little bit more winded, a little bit more tired. FC Dallas, that might have been FC Dallas's game plan, was to just flirt around that offside line and try to get a run and try to catch him. And try to sort of toe that line as much as they could to try to get in behind. That would be, if I were to just throw out an answer to that, that would be, I think, the biggest contributing factor to that. I think it was more Dallas than it was Minnesota. But either way, it just got more and more kind of funny to me every time it happened. And of course, the match ends on an FC Dallas offsides, which is just so fitting.
The other thing that was just funny was just how late all those calls were.
Yeah, I know. It's like the I don't know if the flag went up and the whistle just didn't blow, but or if the linesman was just getting tired. I mean, he has to be like icing his shoulder right now for how many times he's lifting that flag up. Like, my goodness. But you're right. All those calls, it was like, man, they came in so late. But I mean.
Yeah, and I don't have much more of an answer to that question than what Jeremy just said. It's not typical of Minnesota United to try to just it's not typical of Minnesota United to just try to put that into their game plan more than any other team. So I would say it's more on Dallas, but
yeah,
I'd be interested to hear what Heath had to say about that.
Yeah, we'll get the post-game press conference quotes here, and we'll have those for tomorrow for sure. But anyways, moving on as we continue kind of through these game notes here, Roman Metnair had a couple of excellent chances on goal. A Chase Gasper cross. We just talked about Gasper's quality in the attacking third. A cross that it was a great cross. Didn't really find anybody in the box, but kind of went through the box and ended up at the feet of Metnair, sends it wide. And then a little bit later on in sequence that had me like on my feet, on my toes, just kind of like hands over my mouth was it was the sequence of, I believe it was the same sequence as the handball, where Will Trapp sends one off the shoulder or the elbow, whatever you want to say, of an FC Dallas player. And then somehow off a rebound, the ball ends up to Metnair. And he has a golden opportunity on goal, sends it right at Felipe. But going back to that handball call, I was kind of against the popular opinion. Obviously, Minnesota United fans normally would be for a handball in that situation. Even Cal and Kendra were saying they thought it was a handball. So when they freeze framed it, obviously it looked like his hand was in an unnatural position. But as they progressed it forward, he was definitely, to me, trying to move it behind his back and move it out of the way of the ball. And I thought it caught him in his upper arm or his shoulder as opposed to like his forearm or his hand. And to me, when I saw that initially, I was like, I think he's making enough of an effort to at least get his arm out of the way, even though it was in the way at initially, that I didn't really think they were going to give the handball. What did you think?
Yeah, it's obviously I wanted the handball for selfish reasons, but it kind of goes back to that Will Trapp handball against Seattle. Or against Seattle, there were two potential handballs.
It was like 4 minutes apart.
Yeah,
there was a handball that was called on that was not called on Seattle, and then 4 minutes later, a handball that was called on Will Trapp. I said initially I thought both of those were in their own way good calls, but it's not a very good look though when you have two very similar situations that kind of toe the line of handball or not. You don't give it to one team and then 4 minutes later you give it to the other. I understood kind of how that looked and how that could leave a really sour taste in the mouth of Minnesota United fans. But at the same time, I do think both those were good calls. I thought tonight's call was a good call, but I can definitely see that frustration for sure.
Well, and I forget if it was you or Grant during that episode of Post Loons. I forget which one of you said it, but there's the language of the law and then there's the spirit of the law. And right, when you see the players clearly trying to put their arm out of the way and Trapp, I don't know where that ball was headed, right? We don't have all the replay angles to see where exactly that ball was headed. It didn't look like it was headed towards the goal, and it didn't look like it was an especially great pass towards Abila. I might be wrong, but I don't necessarily think that player for Dallas interrupted what was going to be a clear goal scoring opportunity. And I definitely don't think that they meant to do it. They clearly were trying to get their arm out of the way. So in that sense, the spirit of the law would mean that wasn't a handball. I don't know. I think it was close and it was subjective, right?
I also think that there's something like, if you're a fan of the Premier League, you are just so like dead set against any handball call at all, or like any direction a handball call. Like you have like lost trust at all in the ability for officials to call a handball if you're a fan of the Premier League. I actually think VAR and calling of handballs specifically has been so much better in MLS than it has been internationally this year. It's just been an absolute dumpster fire in the Premier League. And I think if you're a fan of the Premier League, you do kind of have that bad taste in your mouth, especially when it comes to handballs. That everything's called a handball in the Premier League, but we can't get a handball call in Minnesota. What's going on, right? So I do kind of get that. But at the same time, I do think MLS officials have done a great job interpreting the handball call and making those correct calls at least, or at least like the overall, like, okay, calls that make sense, right? I think mostly that's what I'm getting to with that. But anyways, moving on from the handball. But before I do, I got to get Dave Stevens giving me a thumbs up here. Good take regarding the freeze frame. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Only sub that Adrian Heath made tonight was Ramon Abila on for Ethan Finley. Obviously, he played a huge factor in the attacking third.
Late one.
There was a late one.
Late.
Man, see, so I get ready for the stream here. So I if we're in stoppage time, if we're super late in stoppage time, I kind of am like half paying attention because I'm trying to get ready for the stream. That's the second game where I've missed a sub. But anyways, so two of they are still allotted 5 substitutions in the 3 windows, I believe, this season in MLS. So again, and you're talking about the 3rd game in a week. So again, more criticism probably coming down the pipeline regarding Adrian Heath and his substitution protocol. Personally, I'm not a Heath out guy, but I do echo that criticism with it. And he always does say in the post-game media availability that he doesn't understand our obsession with substitutions. But at the same time, like, if we're touting this club as this super deep club with quality down the lineup, down the 18, utilize it, especially when you're in a situation where you've played so much so often recently. Like, why not utilize that depth? And I mean, this is the third straight game where we haven't seen Justin McMaster, or at least we only seen him. Was he the late sub?
No, Hayes came on for Reynoso, and
okay,
Reynoso really took his time leaving the field. It was awesome.
Yep. As you do when you have the late lead.
Yep.
But anyways, yeah, it's his third straight match where we haven't seen Justin McMaster, and he's been excellent. It's just so that's just one specific instance. Ja'Cory Hayes has only made one appearance, so it's those types of things.
No, he's made more than one.
Has he made more than one?
I think maybe it was the last game. It was too late.
I know
games.
he was on. I know he was
on
in the last match. I didn't remember him coming on before that. But you're probably
right.
Well,
yeah. Sorry, this is the second one.
Okay,
that's what I meant. This is number 2.
Yes. Okay, so tonight counts as number 2. But anyways, so a few minutes from Ja'Cory Hayes tonight. So I just the quality and depth that this team has, I feel like it can be utilized more. That's just my whole thinking of it. What do you think?
I mean, it worked out. Adrian Heath is the coach. He knows he's in hot water. He's been right. Like Adrian Heath. No, I just looked this up. Jeremy, do you know how many Major League Soccer coaches have been coaching for their team longer than Adrian Heath has? So Adrian Heath is in his 5th season. How many MLS coaches have been doing this longer than him for the same club?
How many? There were like 24 teams in 2017, I think. So I'm going to say less than half. I'm going to go 9.
3.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. Wow. That's crazy.
Peter Vermees, Jim Curtin for Philadelphia, and Brian Schmetzer. Just those 3, and then it's Adrian Heath.
You're talking about 3 of the best coaches in the game. Like 3 coaches, all 3 coaches were, the last time the U.S. men's national team position came up, all 3 of those coaches were included in that conversation. So that's pretty good company. Right. And, it's not all firings, right? Like some coaches just move on to bigger, better things or to other things. But what I'm getting at is Adrian Heath knows the situation he's in. He's been around the game for a while. He knows it's a results-driven business. He talks about this all the time about how it's a results-driven business. He knows that he's in hot water, and he's trying to save his season for the team. He's trying to get back into the conversation of Western Conference contenders, and he's trying to save his own job. And if he wants to do that with the same guys that he has been trusting game after game, that's his decision to make. And that's his decision for us to watch on the sidelines. And that's just the roles that we're in. And fortunately, it worked out tonight. Fortunately worked out tonight, and the conversation will not be about should Heath have subbed more people. If right around when Kendra was talking about how gassed our players were starting to look, if Dallas on that counterattack would have converted, damn right, we'd all be talking about what is Heath doing? Why didn't he work in his subs more? But that didn't happen. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you get the result you want. You've gotten the result you want the last 2 matches. So again, at the ends do justify the means, I guess, in that particular case. I wonder when you get into the dog days of July and August, when you're kind of playing midweek weekend, multiple weeks in a row, how that looks. And where the substitution protocol may change or may stay the same, and how that will affect Minnesota United in that regard. But either way, tonight you get the 3 points. So like you said, that's not where the conversation is. Good thing. Good thing. So actually, I got the sequence wrong. So the trap handball, or excuse me, the almost handball, actually ended up in a Emmanuel Reynoso curler that went wide, and then a few minutes later was Metner finding the ball at his feet inside the box and firing it right at Felipe. So I just wanted to correct myself there. Let's get to that sequence where Minnesota United almost went down in the 89th minute. This is the second straight match where late an opposing player is just sort of broken free and kind of almost had a clean shot on goal. Now, this is also the second time where the defense has recovered well and forced a less than quality shot. But this time it was Dante Seeley receiving a pass. Luckily, like I said, Coleman was just able to recover, force a weak shot right at Miller. And like you said, this came at the exact time that Kindred de St. Aubin is saying, "Oh, these guys are gassed. These guys are tired. We need clean legs, fresh legs, I should say." And it does almost cost them, but luckily again, the defense was able to recover and Minnesota United stayed level. Last week, it almost cost them the lead. Tonight, it would have been a Dallas lead, but again, things stay level, and we don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely.
And then 94th minute, let's talk about the goal. Ball cleared off the line after a Minnesota corner, goes right to Robin Lod, tucks it away. Not the prettiest goal in the world, but it doesn't need to be the prettiest goal in the world. Just needs to end up in the back of the net, and it does. Minnesota United goes up 1-0. They hold on to that lead. And this was really late on the pressure from the 80th minute on. Minnesota United just applied the pressure. Ramon Abila with a great chance. Metner, Reynoso. Like, it seems like everybody just had a shot on goal or had a good opportunity, I guess, I should say, in those final 10 minutes or so. And that was where that effort comes into play, right? Because they had to be tired. They had to be tired considering the circumstances, but they just kind of find that extra gear somehow and just keep the pressure on. And when you do that long enough, whether it's pretty or not, it will pay dividends and you will find a way to put the ball in the back of the net. And that's exactly what happened.
That is exactly what perseverance is. And I loved watching it. Yeah. It was great.
It was awesome. It was awesome. So 1-0, Minnesota United wins their second win in a row. They're now sitting on 6 points, trying to climb their way out of that cellar, right? And they are getting, I mean, obviously now they leapfrog Dallas. Tonight was actually a 6-point night for Minnesota United because Dallas was actually sitting in front of them in the Western Conference standings. So they actually move up. And hopefully this is a continued ascension for Minnesota United. After these 2 wins, it's hard for me to say the ditch is too deep. I don't think we're looking at second, third, or fourth in the Western Conference anymore, as was predicted early in the season. But if you get a couple results go your way, if teams like LAFC and Seattle, keep, maybe I wouldn't say to keep struggling. I don't expect them to keep struggling, but if they can find ways to sort of stay in the middle, bottom of the table, you have a real shot to climb up and solidify a playoff spot. As we head towards, when we get to the latter portions of the season, I should say, it's going to take them the whole season to crawl back up, but they do have a good shot. And people always like to tweet out that, okay, Minnesota United needs like 1.66 points per match now, or 1.62 points per match now. Well, each time they win, that number drops a little bit, right? You need less when you win more. And if Minnesota United can just keep winning and putting together results, it doesn't need to be a win every time out. It just needs to keep putting together results as they did late in the season last year. They're going to find themselves in a really, really good position when you get to the latter portions of the season.
Yeah. And, Jeremy, I know I'm on your show, but on Thursday morning when I was listening to Post Loons, I had the day off of work. I was doing some gardening. And I'm listening to you and Alex talk about what should the expectations be for the end of the season. And you were kind of with the mindset that you just wanted to see things be competitive again. And Alex was like, no, I want the playoffs. There's no reason why we can't be in the playoffs. And
I want the playoffs too, but I think it was more like we need a crawl before we can walk situation. We need to put together some solid performances, and hopefully solid performances lead to results, which will lead to you getting in a possible playoff position. But I was just at that point, and I still kind of am there. I'm just looking for the consistency that can hopefully get them there. But I do get your point.
Yeah, it's just there's no reason why this team can't fight and get into the playoffs. I've seen a lot from this team between today and Wednesday to show that they're not giving up. And right, as a fan, that's what you want to see. As a fan, you want to be proud of the players that are out there representing you. For the past 2 games, we have seen them persevere. Not to keep using that word, but we have seen them persevere. And there's no reason this shouldn't be a playoff team.
I agree. Again, if you have a comment or a question, we're kind of going to be moving on from the match tonight and talk about what's to come for Minnesota United. So if you have a comment or question on that, definitely drop it here, whether you're watching on Twitter or YouTube. And again, 9th Street Soccer and Coffee will be giving somebody who comments a question or a comment on tonight's match or just on Minnesota United in general. They'll be giving them a free 1-hour field rental. All you got to do is in that comment or question, drop a coffee cup emoji to let us know that you want to be enrolled in that. So 2 weeks off now, Sam. I think a much needed break coming off those 3 matches in a week. Sorry, go ahead.
You going to set up a Friends of 10K session at 9th Street Soccer?
I might
come and kick it around.
I don't think you want to see me kick it around, but I can definitely go out and try my best. Yeah, we might need to do that. We might need to get a Team 10K, maybe pickup match or field rental going over at 9th Street. I'm sure Derek would be happy to hook me up over there. So maybe we'll get that going. That's a good idea, Sam. I may keep that in mind moving forward.
Well, we got to get Alex from Dummy Run because Alex, sorry for embarrassing you here, but his former, I think it was his MySpace profile, or maybe it was his AOL Instant Messenger screen name, was Soccer God. So
have you known him long enough to know that, or is he divulging that information publicly?
It came out in conversation. Yeah, he was Soccer God. No, I don't
know
him.
If I would be telling people that if that. But anyways, we love you.
So whatever team I'm on, Soccer God's team.
Okay, you're on Soccer God's team. All right, sounds good. Sounds good. So let's move on and talk about what's to come here for Minnesota United moving forward. Off next weekend, so May 29th, they will be at RSL, the revenge game against David Ochoa. I can't wait to see what the Minnesota United supporters will have cooked up on social media for David Ochoa. I know recently they have been going through like the Twitter feeds of opposing goalkeepers and finding things to sort of razz them over. Obviously, you won't have to dig too far for David Ochoa. So I'm interested to see the conversation on Twitter as we head towards that one. At RSL, it's going to be a big one. RSL still hanging near the top of the Western Conference table. So that's going to be, I think, a little bit of a measuring stick game for Minnesota United to see where they're at. Because the last 2 wins have been great, but Vancouver and FC Dallas are near the bottom of the Western Conference right now. So, you definitely want to see what Minnesota United can do against that higher quality competition. Again, I don't know where RSL is going to end up, but they're up there right now. So that'll be a good measuring stick match for Minnesota United. And then you get another break, the international break, and then you don't play again until June 19th when you're at FC Dallas, and then back at home June 23rd against Austin, or excuse me, not against Austin. Who do they play on the 23rd? Do you know off the top of your head? I have Austin on here, but I know that's not right.
You're putting me on the spot.
I know.
No, I do not. I do know Austin is supposed to be the first game that we're back in what is near to be full capacity.
Oh yeah, no, it is Austin. It is
okay.
Austin. Okay, I was right. Okay, why did I doubt myself? Anyways,
yeah, because
it is
my mindset was we can kind of right some of our wrongs, get this boogeyman off our back, and go into RSL. We have Austin again. Both horrible losses for us that we're trying to forget. Well, this is a great way to forget about those.
And I said it last week. This is going to be huge. Getting full capacity back at Allianz Field for Minnesota United, because if they are going to start putting more results together and doing what they need to do to get back into a playoff position, they're going to have to get results at home. And a big factor in getting results at home is having that full crowd and having that atmosphere that Allianz Field has had, being that fortress that it has been, over the first season that we were able to have fans there. I mean, Minnesota United had a great home record. Even when they were at TCF and struggling 2018, they had an excellent home record. So the home cooking, once we get back to full capacity, is going to be huge for Minnesota United in terms of getting those results. And obviously having full capacity is going to be a huge factor in that.
I hear that. Yeah, I've still, so you bring up 2018. 2018 was the last time I heard Wonderwall in person, because in 2019, even though I went to 5 games, they were all draws.
Oh man, that
I
is
guess I saw him win at Madison, if that counts, but other than that, it
okay.
was all draws.
Yeah,
So
my first Minnesota United match was 2018 as well. They beat the Chicago Fire, and they actually went to the 2018 home opener at TCF. I was not a Minnesota United fan when I went to that match, but I left a Minnesota United fan.
there you go.
I was immersed. So that's how my Loons fandom became. And luckily, I've had great luck attending Minnesota United matches. I don't know if I've ever seen them lose, to be honest. I went. Oh no, they lost. Did they lose or draw NYCFC in the Allianz Field opener? Did they lose? Did they lose that?
It was a draw.
It's 3-3, right? Okay. So yeah, so that was a draw. So yeah, I don't think I've ever seen them lose. I was at the first Allianz Field win because I wanted to go see Wayne Rooney, and they were playing DC United. So
Yeah.
I was there for that one. So that was really cool to see that. But yeah, I mean, just having the fans there is going to be huge again.
I've definitely seen them lose at TCF, not at Allianz, but
yeah, no, I've seen them lose. I saw them lose a ton at TCF in 2018. I'll tell you what. Anyways, though, moving on. So let's talk about the international break a little bit, because we're for sure losing Lod, Raitala, and Gregush to the Euros. I believe it's the Euros. And
yeah, that's starting in June.
Yes. So, and then to be honest, Dave Stevens asked, do we know who else is going? I'm not 100% sure what other international fixtures look like. I know some regions are trying to get some World Cup qualifiers in during that time. So there may be more than that. I don't know if you're going to be losing Dane to Canadian international duty. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to look, but I know the 3 for sure, Raitala, Lod, and Gregush, are going to be gone, which Lod and Gregush are two big missing pieces. Luckily, at least in this defensive midfield, you have four guys you can plug and play, right? So you still have depth even without Gregush there, which is great. Lod, as we mentioned, it'd be great to have Fragapane in at that time to make up for that. If you don't, you're going to be sort of mixing and matching like they had been early in the season when things weren't going well. So hopefully that doesn't become a bit of a Groundhog Day situation there. But how are you feeling about this upcoming international break, Sam, and the missing pieces, and how we could potentially make up for those, if we can make up for those?
I mean, first of all, I'm excited to watch our players play in the Euros.
Absolutely.
I love watching the Euros.
That's going to be awesome.
And I'm very proud to say that my favorite MLS team is sending guys over there. That is something I'm excited about. I'm going to be cheering for Finland and Slovakia. And it's going to be a good time. I think you're right in saying that the replacing Gregush, just given that we have the depth between Trapp, Ozzy, and Hassani, that seems a little bit more obvious. Whatever sort of combination we want to pull out in there, we're going to figure that out. As long as there's no injuries.
Yes.
What to do about Robin Lod? I think Ethan Finlay is an obvious answer over there. Yep. We know that Heath continues to trust Ethan Finlay. We continue to see Ethan Finlay out in that role that Robin Lod is slotted into anyway, right? Mm-hmm. Robin Lod has been playing striker. So we've been seeing Ethan Finlay out on the right wing anyway. So I have no reason to think that we won't be seeing a heavy dose of Ethan Finlay out there. Obviously, Hassani is going to be in the rotation. We've seen this now. Hassani, while he may not technically be part of our best 11, if we were to put out our optimal lineup, he starts almost every single game. Hassani is a starter for Minnesota United. We're going to see him play a lot, whether it's on the right wing in place of Robin Lod, or if it's in place of Jan Gregush playing in the center. I know a lot of us would like to see Hassani spend more time in the center, so hopefully we can work him into there. But it's it seems like he's up for the challenge no matter where he is, even if it's on the left, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Fragapane coming in will make things a lot easier to try to work out a lineup, so we're not trying to put people too far out of position and just trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah.
I think Fragapane will really help with that lineup construction. And I think, like I said earlier, as long as he's in before those guys go to the Euros, I'm cool.
All right. I agree. And I think that's going to be kind of a huge factor in that. So, full disclosure, I wasn't able, before the stream started, considering the late goal and considering how distracted I was by that, I wasn't able to get some tweets ready for tweets of the night. What I am going to do, though, shout out Bridget McDowell from the Minnesota Football Show and Switch the Pitch. We're just going to read some of her best 8-word reactions that she garnered from Twitter. So let's go right away. Our friend Mark Fangmeyer from 55-1. His 8-word reaction is garbage goals count the same as pretty ones. Definitely agree. Grant, good friend Grant from Dummy Run Podcast, Robin Lode and Michael Boxall are supremely underrated. I think Robin Lode is kind of crawling out of that underrated hole because I think people are starting to really realize how much they should rate Robin Lode, considering his play so far this season. Let's see. There are a few ones that I don't necessarily want to say. This is let's see, at Emoeby maybe. This is the team we hope to see. I mean, this is the team that we have seen in years past when Minnesota United have been at their best. Solid back line, find a way to get a goal, consistent possession. You know, even if you're not winning the possession battle, which Minnesota United never really wins the possession battle too consistently, but they make the most of the possession that they have. And that's what they did. That's what they did tonight. So I think what we saw tonight was definitely more vintage Minnesota United in a good way, like 2019, 2020 Minnesota United, than what we've seen in the past. And then Bill Sikora says the second Abila comes in, we wake up. And I did want to comment on that. That's something I didn't have in the notes, but something that stood out to me at the time. You could tell when Ramon Abila came into the match, like the energy just picked up. It picked up in the building, and I do think that translated to the players on the pitch. And I think that was part of what really was able to give them that kind of final boost, that final wind to get them through to the end and end up getting that goal.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I definitely would agree. You can just see the quality that he brings onto the pitch whenever he's on the field. I do still see him as a later in the game substitute. I do not see him as a starter. Part of that is because we're being told that he's not 90 minutes fit yet. So yeah, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves and think that he's going to be starting against RSL, as we talked about earlier in the show. But yeah, I totally agree. He is a quality striker, and I'm glad he's on our team.
I completely agree. And, you know, we've had a few questions in the past regarding whether they think once you get Unu in and once you get Abila full 90 minutes fit, does Adrian Heath go to a 2-striker setup? I think, though, you have, in addition to, so Hassani Dotson has been the really only one that I've seen on this team as like a super sub, right? Like a high quality player that Adrian Heath is able to pick off the bench at any point in any match and substitute in and make that immediate impact. I would put, even right now, Ramon Abila in that super sub category. And once he's fully fit, he is even more so in that category. So I would personally rather see Adrian Unu start when he's in and when he's able to play, and then allow the match to sort of play out and allow, depending on that, allow Adrian Heath to plug Ramon Abila in when, where, and how he deems him most effective in that match, as opposed to saying, okay, we're going to start you both and you're both going to go 90 minutes and best of luck. You know, I don't necessarily think they're both quality, but I don't necessarily think that would be the right move. I mean, I don't think it would be a wrong move. Like, I think it would work, but also I think that having Abila on the bench is a huge plus for Minnesota United moving forward as you get into, especially when you consider how how the middle of the season is going to be. I mean, how July and August always is. I mean, it's a war of attrition. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have struggles. You're going to have guys who, even if they're not fully injured, they're laboring with something, a hammy, a calf, cramping, whatever. So having, a guy like Abila on the bench just gives you so much and can provide so much in those instances.
Yeah, I agree. And not even based on his play, just based on what we are hearing about him, it seems like that's the message that we're getting. He's not necessarily meant to be the starter. He is that super sub, as you're phrasing it. He is the person to come in later in the game and make an impact. And I like what I see. When you watch the European leagues, they have players like that, right? They have really good players that don't start, but they still are very important players to their team, and they still make an impact. And it looks like we have one in Ramon Abila.
I completely agree. All right, we've been at this for an hour and 10 minutes. Thank you so much to everybody who's left a comment or a question. We're going to give our final thoughts. So if you want to leave your final thoughts, drop a comment on Facebook, on Twitter or YouTube, wherever you're watching. And also, if you are watching on YouTube, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. That would be awesome. That's actually huge for the stream. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. Thank you so much to everybody who has tuned in or is tuning in to Post Loons right now. Sam, overall final thoughts on the match tonight. Now that this team is 2-4, where is your confidence level at, and how much has your confidence level risen in this club over the last two matches?
Sorry, on what scale am I saying my confidence level?
1 to 100, 1 to 10. I don't know. Just
well, after losing the first four, right, none of us were feeling good. Right, we weren't feeling good after losing the first two. Felt worse after the first three. Like after the first four, that was tough.
The fire alarm was pulled after 4. Absolutely.
It just, to see our team, and to see Heath kind of come out and make the statements that he made and say, like, we're going to get out of this, put forth his plan and execute it. And I get, right? Like when you win a game 1-0, you're kind of doing it in dramatic fashion. Yeah. You can't always rely on stoppage time goals to pull out a win, but to have 2 clean sheets in a row, right? So we're getting back to, as you said, the vintage Minnesota United 2019, 2020 that we have grown accustomed to, where we don't have a leaky defense. So 2 games in a row, we haven't had a leaky defense. We still do have a problem finishing. We still have a problem getting on that scoreboard. And hopefully the influx of these new guys is going to be the answer for that, in the same way that Emmanuel Reynoso was the answer for that for us last year, where, right, because we were going through this scoreless rut last year where it just didn't seem like we could get on the board. Emmanuel Reynoso comes in, and all of a sudden we are a highly powerful offense, in addition to our stout defense. I am hoping that is the direction that we're headed. So, going into this sort of bye week, if you want to call it that.
That's such an American term too. I'm sure James, your co-host on Pod on Loons, is just cringing right now at the term bye week. You should ask him on your next episode what he thinks of the term bye week. Because
and he is a big NFL fan. But
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, whatever. It's 10:30 at night. We've been doing this for an hour. And
I used it earlier. I'm totally calling it a bye week. I'm just saying, if there's anybody, any European-based people who are watching this, they're probably like, "What's a bye week? Like, what does that even mean?" Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I'll just finish, and then I got a tangent, but I think that's very good for our trajectory. I think that's very good for our confidence to have 2 wins going into the bye week. It changes the narrative of the way this season is going so much. So my confidence, I guess my confidence towards us making the playoffs, very high, 8 out of 10. Our confidence towards being true, like Western Conference contenders, maybe a little bit lower. Confidence towards being Supporters Shield contenders, probably pretty low. But my confidence is much higher. This team is going to the playoffs.
I don't know if I'm there to say, okay, this team is going to the playoffs, but I can see it. Like the vision of after 0-4, I could not envision this team going to the playoffs at all. It just wasn't even there. After Vancouver, you heard what I said. I was like, I just want to see consistency. I want to see this team take this result and just play consistently better and put together consistent results. And what I neglected to mention in that rant was that if they did that, obviously they would in turn put themselves into a playoff position. I can see it now, but I don't think it's going to be a position where late September we have the 5 seed. Like, I don't think we're there. I think this team, considering the 0-4 starts, I think the only way this team gets in is an absolute battle. Like, I think it is going to be bite your nails down to the core, maybe decision day type situation for Minnesota United. And I think that's what 0-4 gets you. I think inevitably when you start 0-4, if you're going to make the playoffs, it's going to have to be in that fashion. Now, they could prove me wrong and go on a 12-game unbeaten streak, and maybe if they can get the finishing together, maybe they do. But I think if they're going to make the playoffs, it's going to be very, very stressful. It's because it's going to be one of those things where it's like a fringe thing where they, because the Western Conference is already so tight as it is. I think it won't. I don't necessarily think they're going to have too much of a problem getting in the conversation, but getting in the conversation and actually getting in to be one of those 7 teams is completely different to me. And I think that's going to be the getting over the hump is something that I can see. I just don't know where my confidence level necessarily is in that portion of it specifically. I think they can get in the conversation. I just don't know if they can get there after 0-4. But again, if they keep putting more wins together, it'll just be becoming more and more of a potential reality. So,
well, that's just it. Is every game is going to bring more clarity. You have a lot of 6-point games this season with hardly having any Eastern Conference opponents on the schedule.
Yeah,
just 6-point games all over the place. Every game is going to matter. If we keep playing like we are tonight, if we can get revenge on a couple of the teams that got the best of us earlier, I think we're sitting in a good position.
That is a great point. I just brought up Dave Stevens' comment. Heavy Western Conference schedule this year can definitely help Minnesota United expedite that process of working their way up the ladder. So, Sam, you said you had a tangent.
No, I reconnected with a friend. I studied in England for a while at the University of Winchester, which is kind of by Southampton. Yeah. And one of my classmates there, or one of my friends and classmates back in England, he recently got into the Loons because he found Pod on You Loons and was like, I know that guy. I'm going to give it a try. And he told me, and I've known him since 2007. And he just admitted to me now that he calls soccer. And he says that there are parts of England that, yes, we all knew that soccer comes from the word association football. Yep. Where they shortened association for soccer. But he says there are regions of England where they call it soccer. And I did not know that. And he is someone that calls it soccer. He's always called it soccer. So
wow. I'm gonna try to find a soccer broadcast from those specific portions of England and see if the announcers actually call it soccer, because that is super interesting. I mean, obviously, yeah, the name originates from England, but yeah, that's kind of cool. So Take that, football snobs. What do you think now? All right. I can't think of a better way to end on, Sam. Thank you so much for joining me on Post Loons tonight. I appreciate it. Everybody go listen to Pod on You Loons. It's on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. The Twitter handle's right there at Pod Loons. Sam, anything else you want to plug before we get out of here?
No, if you guys are into pub trivia, I host pub trivia a lot. Yes. Just reach out. You can find it on my Twitter profile. You can find the links to my stuff.
Appreciate you mentioning me in the pizza tweet. I have had I've never had St. Louis pizza. I've actually heard St. Louis as much as I'm a Cardinals fan. I've been to St. Louis a ton. I've never had St. Louis pizza, and I've only heard bad things about St. Louis pizza. So I shouldn't necessarily knock it until I've tried it, but I haven't heard good things. Chicago's great. Low key though, Chicago deep dish is definitely more of like a touristy thing.
Okay.
Like it's people who live in Chicago or like originate in the Chicagoland area. Like deep dish, it's so heavy, you can really only eat it like once a year. Like it's just one of those things you get so full after eating it, you don't even want to think about it for 6 months. It's one of those, but it's
yeah.
really good. It's really good.
My wife and I eat it almost every week, probably for sure every other week.
Really deep dish?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Good for you.
Yeah. There's a nice spot in New Hope. So we tend to frequent that spot.
All right. Fair enough. I stand corrected on that. But Chicago pizza. Yeah, though. Speaking of Chicago pizza, they have really good thin crust. Like if you go to Chicago pizza places, don't get the deep dish, get the thin crust because they do really good thin crust in Chicago too. That's like true Chicago style pizza.
Well, and I heard St. Louis style doesn't use 100% real cheese. Like they'll mix real cheese with processed cheese. That it's interesting. Yeah. So that's what separates it from like what you would get. Right. There's that Minnesota, Wisconsin kind of tavern style where it's thin crust and you cut it into squares. St. Louis is like that, but some of the cheese is processed, which I don't know. That just sounds wrong.
It does sound wrong to me. I don't know. I didn't know that specifically. I just knew that the reviews that I have gotten on St. Louis style pizza have been less than positive. So QC Pizza, though, there actually is a place called QC Pizza in Minnehaha.
It's one of the north suburbs.
Yes,
because it's not. It's one of the north suburbs, which is the part of the Twin Cities I know the least. So
same.
So I think it's not far from like the 3M campus over there.
Yeah. So look up QC Pizza because I'm from the Quad Cities, born and raised in the Quad Cities. And so if you go in there, they actually have pictures up on the wall of different landmarks from the Quad Cities. And so anytime I go there, I like kind of feel like I'm home a little bit, which is kind of cool. My fiance and I, we during the pandemic, we ordered out from there a lot. Before then, we went there a few times. The guy who owns it is obviously from the Quad Cities, so it's kind of cool. So, and QC Pizza, the toppings are actually underneath the cheese. That's the difference. The cheese is on top, and like the sausage or the pepperoni or whatever you have on it is actually between the cheese and the crust. So it's just a little bit different. It's kind of flipped. It's really good though. Very, very good. Would recommend. Look up QC Pizza.
I've been meaning to make it out there because I've just tried Target had that frozen QC pizza, and I did try that, but it's a frozen pizza and it tastes like a frozen pizza. I want the real thing.
You gotta get the real thing. You gotta get the OG. Hey, I talked about a 10K 9th Street day. Maybe we need to get a 10K QC Pizza run going. Maybe I can get them to sponsor the podcast. Maybe we get them to sponsor Pod on You Loons. Maybe we get them to sponsor Post Loons. Who knows? QC Pizza, hit us up.
Hey, if they have good pizza, I'll do it for free. So
there you go. Perfect. Perfect. All right, Sam from Pod on You Loons. Follow them on Twitter at PodLoons to learn everything about that they're doing. Do you have any? So during the season, you guys drop kind of after games, right? Do you have a specific day that you guys drop?
We always either record Sunday or Monday.
Okay.
Then put it out right away that night. So
sounds good.
We're always ready for you. It's either your Monday or Tuesday morning commute. You'll find us in your downloads. So
all right. So subscribe to Pod on You Loons on your preferred podcast platform. If you're still watching, the 6 of you that are tuning in after an hour and 23 minutes at 10:43 on a Saturday night, I appreciate you. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and give us a thumbs up on the stream. We really very appreciate it. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate your questions and your comments. This will be up on the podcast feed tomorrow morning too. So if you'd rather listen instead of watch, you can catch it there. But for Sam from Pod on You Loons, I'm Jeremy Rushing, and we will catch you. Oh, we don't have a Post Loons for another 2 weeks. Get a little bit of time off. I love doing these, but I'm sure my fiance will be happy to hear that as well. So
I was going to say, with your 3 podcasts, being able to take a break from one of them has to be pretty nice.
it's a huge time freer for me to do other things. So Sam, I appreciate it, man. You have a good night. Thank you to everyone listening, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks on Post Loons. Bye.
Take care, guys.